World War II produced some of the greatest fighter planes ever built, machines still remembered as legends nearly a century later, and also some of the worst aircraft to ever leave a factory floor, machines that pilots dreaded the moment they saw them on the runway. Today, we're ranking WW2 aircraft from absolute worst to the undisputed best, starting with the machines nobody wanted to fly, and ending with the legends that actually helped win the war in the skies. Let's start at rock bottom.
Breda BA-65, Italy. Starting at the very bottom, the Italian Breda BA-65 was outdated the moment it entered combat. Underpowered, poorly armored, and mechanically unreliable, it stood almost no chance against modern Allied fighters in North Africa. Pilots complained constantly about weak defensive armament and engines that simply couldn't keep up with the aircraft's own weight.
Ferry Battle, United Kingdom. Just above that sits the Ferry Battle, a British light bomber that looked reasonable on paper but proved disastrous in reality. During the Battle of France in 1940, entire formations of battles were shot down on single missions, sometimes losing the majority of aircraft sent out. Crews often knew before takeoff that the odds weren't in their favor.
Blackburn Botha was meant to be a capable torpedo bomber, but poor cockpit visibility, chronic engine trouble, and sluggish handling got it pulled from frontline duty almost immediately. It was demoted to training roles, where it kept crashing anyway, proving some designs just can't be saved by reassignment.
Bolton Paul Defiant, United Kingdom. The Defiant had one fatal flaw built into its entire concept. It had no forward-firing guns, only a rear turret. The moment German pilots figured that out, they simply attacked head-on with zero risk to themselves. It eventually found a niche as a night fighter, but its early daylight losses were brutal.
Middle tier, Curtiss P-40 Warhawk, USA. Now we start climbing into genuinely useful aircraft. The P-40 Warhawk wasn't the fastest or most maneuverable fighter of the war, but it was tough, reliable, and available in huge numbers across nearly every theater of the conflict. Famous for the shark-mouth nose art used by the Flying Tigers in China, it did real work even while being outclassed by better designs, proving that dependability sometimes matters more than raw performance on paper.
Brewster Buffalo, USA was outclassed the second it met Japanese Zero fighters over Malaya and Burma. Too slow, too heavy, and too underpowered for serious combat, one RAF report bluntly called it unsuitable against modern opposition. Ironically, Finnish pilots found real success with it against weaker Soviet aircraft, proving even a bad plane can shine in the right matchup.
Hawker Hurricane, United Kingdom. The Hurricane doesn't get the same fame as the Spitfire, but it actually shot down more enemy aircraft during the Battle of Britain than any other RAF fighter. Rugged, easy to repair, and forgiving to fly, it was the reliable workhorse standing right next to the more glamorous aircraft that usually steals the spotlight. Messerschmitt Bf 110, Germany. The Bf 110 was a solid heavy fighter early in the war, but once it faced faster single-engine opponents during the Battle of Britain, its limitations became obvious fast. It later found genuine success as a night fighter against Allied bombers, proving that a mediocre daytime fighter can still become a deadly specialist once repositioned into the right role.
Yakolev Yak-9, Soviet Union. The Yak-9 was lightweight, nimble, and mass-produced in staggering numbers on the Eastern Front. It wasn't flashy or particularly advanced, but it consistently held its own against German fighters and became one of the most produced Soviet aircraft of the entire war, a genuine workhorse rather than a showpiece.
Elite tier, Mitsubishi A6M0, Japan. Now we're in legend territory. The A6M0 dominated the skies early in the Pacific War, combining incredible maneuverability with impressive range that caught Allied pilots completely off guard in the war's opening months. Its lack of armor and self-sealing fuel tanks eventually became a serious weakness as the war progressed and Allied fighters improved. But for the first 2 years of the Pacific conflict, it was arguably the best carrier fighter on the planet, and its reputation alone was enough to make Allied pilots think twice before engaging.
Focke-Wulf FW-190, Germany. The FW-190 gave German pilots a genuine edge when it first appeared, outperforming the Spitfire Mark V in several key areas, including speed and firepower. It forced the RAF to rapidly upgrade their own fighters just to keep pace, and remained one of the most versatile aircraft of the war, used as a fighter, bomber, and ground attack platform.
Supermarine Spitfire, United Kingdom. The Spitfire is one of the most iconic aircraft ever built, and for good reason. Its elegant elliptical wing design combined speed, agility, and firepower in a way few contemporaries could match, and it became the aircraft most closely associated with British resistance during the Battle of Britain. Continuously upgraded throughout the war with better engines and armament, it remained competitive from the Battle of Britain all the way through to the war's final days, a rare achievement for any single airframe design stretched across 6 years of rapid wartime development.
Messerschmitt Bf 109, Germany. The Bf 109 was Germany's primary fighter for the entire war, and one of the most produced fighter aircraft in history, with over 30,000 built across all its variants. It was fast, agile, and constantly upgraded to stay relevant, remaining a genuine threat to Allied pilots from the invasion of Poland all the way to the fall of Berlin. Its biggest weakness was actually a logistical one. Its narrow landing gear made ground handling notoriously difficult, and more than a few were lost to accidents on the runway rather than in actual combat.
North American P-51 Mustang. At the very top sits the P-51 Mustang, widely considered the best all-around fighter of World War II. Its original American engine was actually mediocre at high altitude, but once fitted with the British Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, everything changed. It combined incredible range, speed, and maneuverability, finally allowing Allied bombers to have full fighter escort protection deep into German territory, something that simply hadn't been possible before. It didn't just win dogfights, it fundamentally changed the outcome of the strategic bombing campaign over Europe, and many historians consider that single upgrade one of the most important turning points of the entire air war.
From aircraft that pilots dreaded flying, to legendary machines that genuinely helped decide the outcome of the war, this ranking shows just how massive the gap in WW2 aviation engineering really was, sometimes within the exact same conflict and even the same air force. Some designs never should have left the drawing board. Others became the standard every fighter since has been measured against, and their influence can still be seen in aircraft design decades later. If you enjoyed this ranking, hit like and let me know in the comments which WW2 aircraft you think deserves a different spot on this list.